This is a GK Media podcast.
This podcast is part of the GK Media Studios Creators Network, helping people tell their stories. Become a storyteller today and learn about our podcaster network at gkmediastudios.com.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wellth Talks with myself, Garry Kelly, Pádraic, Máille and Niall Leyden. And today we want to focus on a reset. And I think the best way of starting that off is, Pádraic, can you tell us the wake-up story?
Yeah. Many years ago, Garry and Niall, I was doing a course in Nenagh, in the Abbey Hotel in Nenagh. And it was 9 o'clock in the morning, 9 through to lunchtime. And I always remember at about 10 past 9, this guy stumbled in and he was smothering and he was giving apologies. And I said, John, what's the story? And he said, I'm sorry for being late. And I said, it's fine. And he said, I said, you know, this kid's back to school crack. He said, every morning I'm having difficulty getting my son out of bed. And I said, what's the story? And he said, look, this morning I woke him up at 7:30. I said, school is back. Got to go back to school. Get out of bed. It's time to get up. And I left him for a few minutes. I went back and he had the covers over his head. He was asleep again. And I lost it. I said, you're going to have to get up. You got to get out of bed. You got to go to school. And he says, I'm giving you 3 reasons, Dad, I'm not going to school. He says, what? Well, 1, he says, I don't like school. And he says, 2, I don't like the other students. And 3, he says, I hate the teachers. And the father, he says, in front of the whole group, he says, well, he says, now, he was losing it. He says, I'm giving you 3 reasons why you get out of bed. 1 is your duty. 2, you're 45 years of age. And 3, you're the headmaster. and I love that story always because we've got duties in life, so we have. Yeah. We're old enough. Yeah. And we equally are the headmasters in our own life. And I always love that. I always love that in September of this year because it's a kind of a reawakening after the summer. And so the message for our listeners is wake up, get out of bed. Yeah. We have a duty, we're old enough, and we're the headmasters of our life. That's my wake-up story, Garry.
Brilliant. Because, Niall, we were in the sea during the summer. And you were saying to me at one stage, you said, I don't know, I'm feeling a little bit guilty today. And I said, why? And you said, because I've had such a great summer. I've been doing loads of stuff with the kids. I've been away with Brenda. You know, we've gone to Portugal a few times. I'm partying with my parents. And I was like, but this is why we've worked hard from January to May, so we can really indulge and enjoy this summer. And we did. But now, you know, it's nearly the 3rd week in September. The students are starting or heading back to university. The kids went back to school a few weeks ago. September is the great reset. But it's also a huge opportunity to do the things that maybe you were hoping to do on the 1st of January this year, and they didn't really come to fruition, but you still have that moment now.
I think I might have been saying that tongue-in-cheek in the sea. Me guilty about being in the sea or having a good time. Definitely not true. But I think, you're probably right, Garry. Coming into September, it's a wonderful time of the year because people look at, you know, September, October, November, December as being, you know, you can drift into it, which many of us do, and I did for a long time, you know, and then you get into January, February, March. But I think this is a really, really good time to reset and refocus and reboot, and whether it's something you want to do with your family or with the business or, you know, with your own personal goals. I just think, you know, the kids are back at school. There's a routine. There's a bit of noise around the house at 6:30 or maybe it could be 7:15 in that morning. But Monday through Friday, that rhythm, that routine, but that energy, you know, people are back having breakfast at the kitchen table. I won't say phones are going, but you're in cars, you're gone. You know, in our case, we're probably gone at 7 and home at 6. And that's good because you're right. I mean, the summer, whilst we love it and we had a reasonably good summer weather-wise and catching up with family and friends and, you know, an occasional trip to whether it was Enniscrone, that's brilliant. But it's like anything else. It's like, there's 2 friends that I often cycle with, Sean Gibbons and Michael Noon. They're 2 of 10 or 12 that cycle in Connemara. We were in Oughterard there a couple of weeks ago and just outside O'Sullivan's having a coffee. And something Michael said to me, we were chatting about retirement planning and they were actually chatting about Wellth Talks and the enjoyment and crack they were getting out of it. And Michael said to me, he said a wonderful thing. He said, Niall, but the reality is I worked for 35, nearly 40 years. Now a granddad, very successful guy. He wouldn't say that himself. But it's not about retiring from something, it's about retiring to something. And, you know, that his grandkids now are probably getting more value, when he was rearing kids and paying mortgages and family and work and this and that. So I think, look, September's a nice time. It's a good time. It's a change in the season. What do they call it? A winter arc. I have to go back to what I was saying earlier on in the year and get back down to try and get to a 17 or a 16.5 inch collar. But yeah, look, it's a good time, isn't it?
No, it's brilliant. And I notice as well, if we're ever launching something for a client, whether it's a new podcast series or marketing campaign, the two best times in the year to do it is January or September.
Wow, yeah.
Try to do something in May, it's gone, because everyone comes out of a routine May, and it's not until September that routine comes back in again. And if you need people to be buying into, some weekly content you're publishing or a campaign or something like that, you need to get it when people are in a routine. So if anyone, is looking to do something in business, I would say kick it off in September. Now, I know we're near the end of September at this stage. But also, if you're kind of beating yourself up saying, look, the year wasn't as good as I expected it to be, you still have a quarter of the year left. And even if you feel you won't get all that you hoped you would achieve by the end of this year, use the next few months to be very diligent, to work hard, so you can start January 2026 with a bang. And I know it's September and we're already talking about January, but it's such a great window of time to get so much done. The evenings start getting a little bit darker. You go into hibernation mode. The party is over for now. The summer is gone. But use these few months to really build on something strong for yourself.
Gary, I hate to douse your thunder in this one, but for me, for me, after this session, the party's only beginning, because I've been listening to you guys talking about the summer and the brilliant time, but I'm going off to Portugal just after this session for a week.
I was wondering why you're wearing those colours today.
With all these colours from my two grandchildren. So I really hate to do this, but as you were talking, and it's a little bit of an aside, but it's still on. It breaks the rhythm of the new routine. But I had a great friend in Dublin 1,000 years ago, a wonderful psychotherapist, and he used to always talk about the benefits of a good break. And he said there are 3 benefits of a great break. And the first benefit is you're looking forward to it in advance. Now, I have had a massive 2 weeks of it with Smácht more. I don't know how many Smáchts I had this week. I've just been on Zoom since almost Monday morning. But I'll tell you, there was no problem because I knew I was going away. And sometimes just looking forward to it. And it's a little bit like you even talking about January there, Garry. Book your holidays. So that's one benefit of the holiday. The second is that you have good memories from the holiday. You enjoy the holiday itself. So I'm looking forward to enjoying that holiday. But the third great benefit are the memories from that holiday. Yeah. And a good therapist will tell you, then immediately ask you, they'll access your mind for good states, positive states. And that's what a good holiday can give you. You can lock them in there for years. So sorry, that's a total aside.
Yeah, I love how you just rammed it in that you're going to Portugal in 2 hours.
I'm really sorry about that, but I couldn't let that one go.
So I have to go to Ennis and Limerick this afternoon, get home at 9 o'clock tonight. It's slashing rain outside and he's telling us this. I was trying to kick things off this morning. We started this podcast at 11:11. You were talking about holidays.
And listeners, we also talked about having a great agenda here. And Niall was saying we'll do this and we'll do that and we'll do the other. And now I've just brought one in that wasn't on the agenda at all.
Well, I'll try and maneuver it into something based on the theme. And that is, like, I have booked a few trips for the last 4 months of this year, as part of the bucket list of places that I want to visit. And I think, it's that thing of, yes, focus on what you want to achieve over the next 4 months. But that could be a holiday. It could be something got to do with business. But even something I've started doing now with my eldest daughter is sea swimming. Now, ideally, the best time to start is maybe in May when it's warm. But that's going to be our routine now. And it's something new and it's something different and it's something healthy for us. So again, I just think, if someone's listened to this, if you just pause for maybe 5 or 10 minutes after listening to this episode and just write down, because Pádraic, you have often spoken to us about the power of actually writing things down than just typing it on a phone. Write down, what do you want to achieve for yourself over the next, 3 to 4 months of 2025. So you end your year with what you want, what you can reasonably achieve, make that impact.
So there's two things I'd love to add on that.
Well, you're going to have
You're very much a holiday.
The agenda's gone now, so it is, Gary. The agenda's totally gone. Go on,
I'm going to bring this right back to business, because we talk lots in the podcast around health and family. There has to be a real business element to it. But I think the holiday analogy is brilliant, Pádraic. I mean, for me and for us, and it's scientifically proven, the best part of a holiday is the anticipation.
Yeah.
It's the 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 months beforehand. You book the tickets, you book the apartment or the hotel or the Airbnb or wherever you're going.
And the 2 hours now, I can tell you, Niall, it's absolutely beautiful.
I'm getting a headache here. But you're right. Getting in the car, getting to the airport.
Are you like me and I'll hoping the flight now is delayed by 8 hours?
But the ironic thing about holiday, so if say, for example, you're talking to clients, whether in our respective businesses, in SMEs and business around the country, this guilt complex sometimes that we carry or use carry.
Yeah.
All joking aside, we're in tip-top form today, which is good. But the reality is, for most, maybe hearing us talking about holidays, saying, well, geez, it sounds like they're having a brilliant time. I mean, there is the hard jars, the early mornings. You were saying there the last 6 or 8 weeks, it's 60-hour weeks. I saw you in action there in Ballyvaughan there a few weeks ago, auditorium, 40 people, a lot of prep went into it. So I think when I talk about holidays, I always temper it with saying, it's the anticipation is brilliant. You go there, so let's say you're going for a week, but it's a 2-week holiday. It takes a week to acclimatise. All of a sudden you're into the second week. Then you're back. Then you're at your desk. Then a couple of weeks pass, and then maybe something happens. So it's about savouring it and enjoying it and lapping it up and living it, because they're the precious moments and memories. I mean, and I see you're talking about the reset, and I love that story about the headmaster. But I've seen the last couple of weeks with businesses, they're very super dialed in. There's a level of urgency now with people saying, right, let's get back to putting a plan on paper. And I don't know, maybe with the kids starting back and the colleges and, there's a lot going on in the world, but I think you're so right. I mean, we all have a duty just to, whether it's at home with the kids or in the business or in family, just to enjoy the holidays, but at the same time be cognizant of,
And Niall and Garry, sorry, once again. And it's
know you're going to Portugal.
No, I'm going to work. But the benefit of breaks, and Niall has brought up a really interesting point there about the guilt. I'm probably a little bit over it, because I've been hearing you guys, you, Garry, and Niall in particular, and you spend brilliant time with your families. And I really learned an awful lot over the last 3 months and that. And I'm not a bit guilty going today. I always remember two little addenda for our listeners. I remember coming back from a holiday with Anthony Ryan once, really good holiday. And we got depressed. We were back to the old blues again. And I always remember, God rest her soul, Breda Ryan was still living. And I always remember she'd been an extremely positive lady. And she said, now lads, what you do when you come back from a holiday and you're depressed, you go and book the next one. And I think that's a really important thing to do. And he's passed. He was a wonderful GP in Galway, Paul Sands. He was my GP 1,000 years ago. And Sands used to really preach the value of small, short breaks more frequently. And he talked about, long before there were 4-day weeks, he talked about 3-day weekends. You take a Friday off, you take a Monday off, you go up to Westport or Sligo or Donegal. And I always remember him saying, he said, there's no big problem after 3 days or 4 days. Do you know what I mean? The place hasn't fallen down. You can get over it really quickly. And I would encourage our listeners to, in the context of planning, even between here and Christmas, maybe in 6 weeks' time, to build in a break. 2 nights away, as I say, in the west of Ireland, 3 days. Take the Monday or the Friday off, and you look forward to it. Book it, you look forward to it, and you'll have a great memory.
Brilliant. And just to touch on that then as well, Tara, who runs Aduco Gym in Galway that Niall and myself go to, she was saying to us, I think it was 2 or 3 days ago, there's a huge amount of clients coming into her now at the moment who are very stressed. They all have their own businesses or they're in high positions in places, and they're all very, very stressed. And she was saying, I admire Niall and Garry because, they're taking the time out to do their training, they're doing their sea dips, they're hitting the sauna, they're doing stuff with the kids. And you need to do that when you're in a highly stressful place in life, whether you're working high up in a company, or you could be working low in a company, but you could have a huge amount of work piled on you constantly, or you could run your own company. And 100%, take time out to have those little me moments, not to be guilty of them. Plan the rest of 2025 so you're achieving as best you can what you can, but throw in those moments of breaks, and me moments. And that is the reset as you finish off 2025.